Hello everybody, it is Mav here, and today I'm going to be reacting to a video that I just saw in my recommended feed. I was just about to go ahead, lie down, uh, take the day off, not do anything too crazy, just kind of relax and not really do anything really for that matter. Until that I saw this video in my recommended feed. There you go. This video, RiverCiver, and you know how much we love RiverCiver on this. Why SWF is cheating in Dead by Daylight, and yeah, I was just about to lie down and just relax and maybe go to sleep, perhaps. Until I saw this horse shit, and I'm gonna weigh in on it. I'm going to watch the whole video. I'm going to give you my personal opinion, and I'm also going to tell you why he's wrong. So yeah, let's just watch the video, shall we? Let me make sure the good. Yep.
Upon seeing that title, I can already see your unconstructive rage bait comments being formed in the corners of my very mind. So I'd like you to calm down.
It's not rage bait, by the way. Like 6 seconds and he's already 6 seconds and he already thinks that the people in his comments are rage baiting. It is not. I think this guy just lost to a SWF, and that's why he's fucking like completely venting out about it now, but we'll see what he has to say.
Down, take a deep breath, and just listen to me for a second, okay? Perhaps you can come to your own non-emotional, rational conclusion. Actually, it's the DVD community. It's not gonna happen. I'll just say it how it is.
It's not an emotional conclusion. You're just wrong. This is not cheating.
So yes, SWF is cheating in Dead by Daylight. And
No.
yes, I know, it's not bannable, and shouldn't be bannable, for the record. So how is it cheating, then you say? Well, essentially, the Too Long Didn't Watch is, it is so game-breaking and stupid, it falls under every possible category for what could be considered a cheat in a multiplayer PvP game. It's a third-party tool that gives you an in-game advantage that cannot be replicated by anything within the game. Allow me to explain. So starting off, for the very new players watching, what is SWF? This will be brief.
You just explained what a cheat was. Yeah, a third-party software that cannot be replicated by anything within the game's boundaries is considered cheating. SWF is not that. Like, sure, you cannot communicate within the game. That is true. But from outside sources, and talking with your friends is not considered cheating. Talking with your friends in outside sources should not be considered cheating. If you consider that cheating, then I guess all major teams in any like esport ever are cheating. It doesn't hold any weight. This doesn't hold any water, because then you would have to say that for literally every single other game that is competitive, that doesn't have in-game voice chats. That is such a stupid thing to say.
Brief, I promise. But SWF does not stand for single white female. It instead stands for survive with friends. It essentially means just playing Survivor with your friends in a pre-made group. And it's called that because when the option was added to the game, it was called survive with friends. Because reminder, DBD on launch and for a few months afterwards did not let you even queue with your friends. The only way to do that was to queue up at the same time and hope you get into the same lobby. Essentially every match was solo queue, and that's how the game has been balanced for the past 9 years. Even the most diehard SWF apologists will admit that Survivor and DBD was never balanced around having comms, which fundamentally breaks the game in a way that can easily be compared to cheating, and it's not as crazy.
It wasn't, and it's still not balanced around comms. I'd say it's, well, I will say it's a little more balanced around it now than it was before. Absolutely. But it's the common denominator, and it's the target audience, the SWFs or the solo queue. Not solo queue, obviously. Like, why would it be SWF? The majority of people that play Survivor solo queue. They don't play SWF, they solo queue. So of course it's going to be solo queue.
Easy as you think. Now, to start off, what is my definition of cheating? Cheating is using a third-party software or individual that gives you a heavily one-sided in-game advantage and cannot be obtained within the confines of the game, or with.
So not that. So not voice comms. Because here's the thing, voice comms doesn't affect the game. It doesn't. It affects how you play the game, but it doesn't affect the game directly.
Without a massive opportunity cost like running aura perks, which are uncomparable for the amount of info you get in a SWF that was never actually intended. Early perks like bond and empathy are just irrelevant in a SWF. Let me actually run it over really quickly. Being in a competent SWF gives you base kit alert, better together, bond, boon illumination, clairvoyance, counterforce partly, dark sense, deja vu partly, detective's hunch, empathetic connection partly, empathy, eyes of Belmont, fogwise, inner focus, invocation, treacherous crows, without the massive time investment or injuring yourself permanently, kindred, lucky star partly, object of obsession with no downside, open-handed, plunderer's instinct partly, premonition, rookie spirit, small game, still sight, troubleshooter, visionary, wiretap, as well as the item effects of the map and the rainbow map, as well as multiple add-ons for the key. Okay, and wait, calm down, you're emotional, I get it, calm down.
I'm not even being emotional, I'm just looking at this from an objective standpoint. And I didn't see any of those being applied with. I can't see any of those being applied to SWF. I can't. At all. And I just want to, like, I hope that it goes into detail. I hope that it goes into detail as to why he thinks that these are base kit. Because they aren't. They aren't base kit.
Before you get your what the hell is bro saying, bro, this must be rage bait, bro, what the fuck, bro, Spook and Jukes cooked you, bro. I know, I get it. I know this isn't 100% true for all these options. You cannot perfectly communicate the exact pixel location of every chest on the map with plunderers, or exactly where the killer is with alert. But despite the minor hyperbole, just think about that for a second. Why is wall hacking the info of a killer's whereabouts something that's bannable, but having the exact same info relayed to you over Discord is completely fine? The direct parallel is something.
Because you're not tampering with the game. You're not tampering with the game's code, and you're not forcing the game to do an input that it shouldn't be doing. You're not tampering with the game's mechanic. That's why. That's why it's different, and you're not breaking the game's TOS. On top of that, the moment that you're tampering with the game, and you're tampering with the game's code and the way that the game is designed, that is when it's cheating. Anything that happens outside of the game, not cheating. You talking with your friends over comms is not cheating. You can't possibly say that because you're talking with your friends over comms that you're cheating. You can't do that. Because then playing with your friends in any game and talking with your friends over Discord in any game is cheating. So this doesn't hold. This doesn't make sense. That doesn't work.
Something you people can never figure out, and I have yet to hear a good argument disproving this. And I know you're gonna say, though, well, having the killer's constant pixel location with wall hacks is nowhere near comparable to comms and having a good idea of where the killer is, right? And that's fair, but let me ask you, would you consider using a third-party software to give yourself a 200% speed boost cheating? Well, yeah, obviously. That's blatant cheating. Now, let me ask you, would you consider using a third-party software to give yourself a 2% speed boost cheating? Well, you're still using a software to give yourself an in-game advantage that cannot be replicated, right? Regardless of the severity, it's still cheating the same way that getting less info compared to wall hacks is still getting info using a third-party software. When the game launched with no SWF options, perks like Bond and Empathy were created specifically to help survivors locate each other, because the game was never built to have fucking clock callouts for SWFs to use and call out the exact location and IP address of the fresh installed trapper while their teeth are bleeding and their bodies are drenched in sweat. But okay.
Yeah, because the game was not made for that at the time. But we have moved on from that. And we've improved. We've improved upon the game that we got. and then we made a system to it. So yeah. And of course, whenever we could find a way to make a system for it and make it better, then yeah, of course. Of course we're going to use it, and of course we're going to make it. If we can make the game easier for us in any way, and make us understand the game easier in any way, of course we're going to do that. What the fuck are you on about?
Okay, the odd perk here and there is invalidated by SWF. It's no big deal, right? Wrong. There's so much more to it. Just think about it for a second. Do you know how much of an advantage it is, I dare say a cheat-like advantage it is, for someone in your ears to constantly be telling you every 3 seconds into the match, okay dude, it's an Oni and he's coming to Shack, start pre-running 20 seconds early to waste a shit ton of his time, while we all AFK on gens? Like, I wish I could have someone following the survivors around and telling me where they are with constant risk-free info. The closest comparison is stream sniping, I guess, but I don't even have to explain why that's nowhere near as consistent, right? Survivors having this level of coordination also allows them to use certain perks far better than they were ever intended to be used. Having a
That is also just wrong. Sure, you can coordinate how you use your perks better, but that doesn't make them stronger. If a perk is strong in solo queue, it will be infinitely stronger in SWF. Absolutely. It will be way stronger in SWF. But once again, if the perk is strong in solo queue, then it's just a strong perk. Whether you use it in SWF or solo queue, it doesn't matter.
A perk like Unbreakable is always better in SWF, because someone might—
No, it's also good in solo queue. You can use that just as one solo queue. Like, there are multiple times where I've lost survivors that are not SWFs that brought Unbreakable. Multiple times. It's not just only, it's not stronger in SWF. It is in general strong. It's generally a strong perk. And it doesn't become stronger just because you're using it in SWF. That's a bullshit take.
come and pick you up, wasting time, or play differently depending on if you don't have it. While running something like Kindred almost feels necessary in solo queue due to the amount of time your teammates will waste precious time both coming for a hook save. Being in a SWF on comms allows you to be much more efficient on how you play the match, just like someone with wall hacks would, aka too much extra info would. Remember in 2020 when Object of Obsession was really strong in SWF? Perks like this get gatekept by SWF the same way that perks like Awakened Awareness get gatekept by Nurse. Why do you think we don't have a killer yet who can disguise and look like a survivor as one of their abilities? It sounds cool on paper, but SWF just ruins it like SWF ruins everything. Just being able to call out—
SWF doesn't ruin everything. SWF takes the game. Like, the way that I look at it is that SWF takes the game and makes the most out of it. That's the way that I see it. SWF takes the game and makes the absolute most out of it. And that's fine. That's completely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you see a problem with that, I'm sorry, but there is no issues with that. I don't see an issue with that. Because that's not only exclusive to Dead by Daylight. That's in any game where there's voice comms. And when you're playing with your friends, you should be allowed to be able to talk with your friends and not have it be considered cheating. Like, I just think it's a stupid take. I think it's a stupid take to say that SWF is cheating because it's strong. Like, am I crazy for that? I don't know.
Killer is on X side of the building, or a trapper placed a trap on this pallet, or I need a body block and an EMP at the main building, fundamentally breaks the game because it never was and still isn't balanced around the survivors having so much info. The thing is, the devs aren't going to do a thing about this because of course they aren't. It's plain stupid to ask them to ban people for playing with their friends. That's simply impossible, and they're a business after all. That would never work. So with all this whining, what's the solution? Well, I'll get into that later, but let me continue with my points that you
I
will
would
pay
love
attention
your
to.
solution.
In my Blight video, one of the comments I got is that Blight is one of the only killers who can consistently deal with a sweated out 4-man SWF, trying their absolute hardest doing clock callouts on a win streak, and I agree with you, I should have brought that up. Much like play—
That's not true. There are many other kills that can do this. There are many, many other kills that can do this consistently. Sure, Blight is a good example. But there's many killers that can do this. Nurse can do it. Kaneki can do it. Spirit can do it. Plague. Plague can do it as well. Because Plague basically stops healing. And a good Plague player will absolutely take advantage of that. So, don't imagine JW. You have Singularity. And many more. Wins. Well. So yeah, this is bullshit. That's a bullshit deck.
Playing Blight, there's nothing inherently wrong with playing in SWF. I want to say that you should never feel bad for playing in a SWF. Solo queue is rough, we all know this. And I basically only play Survivor with friends when I do. And we calm too, just like everyone else.
That's a fair take.
To me, we're just simply being in a call with people I know are decent at the game and giving comms gives such a massive advantage, it is uncomparable. And you should never have an ego for winning in SWF. A lot of these high ego SWF players beating up on fresh install.
I don't know about that. I think if you're winning a lot together with your team, I think if you're winning together a lot together with your friends because you have good communication, I think that's an incredible feat, because it's not always that you get the, what do you call it, that you get the information correct whenever you're talking to your friends. Not always you get the information correct, and mistakes do happen in communication. So yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all.
Killers act like they're gods and have a massive power trip because they can pre-drop the 30 god pallets on the map while their team is just AFKing on gens, which entirely takes away the interaction from the game, just like playing Blight does. These people who just brain dead pre-drop everything and pre-run the killer because they're constantly being updated on the position every 5 seconds don't actually learn how to play Survivor. They just learn how to play in a SWF and do gens without ever learning how to loot. They just boil down the game to a science and optimize the fun out of it just like the compies do, just so they—
Yeah. Of course you're gonna do that when you want to play as effectively as possible. The difference that there is between solo queue and SWF is that SWF will always be more efficient. SWF will always be more efficient than solo queue. And the sooner you realize that, the happier you'll be. Because then you won't complain about it.
they can escape and get their Arby's gift cards. When you actually get a SWF zombie at a broken loop, they're always fucking terrible at the game, because they only run meta shit and play in SWF, so they never actually learn. They're always just incredibly boosted, and yet they act like they're good still because they win most of their matches, because of course they do. And okay, so SWF is clearly problematic, but it's not cheating, right? I mean, the devs allow it, it's not breaking any rules. Isn't that how cheating works? Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of legal versus moral? Sometimes YouTubers get away with completely heinous shit, but don't get legally punished, because what they're doing isn't technically illegal, or there's a loophole. They'll still end up getting shunned for it, but I don't know, man, it's not technically illegal, so who cares? They did nothing wrong. Might makes right, and breaking the fundamental basics of the game with constant information throughout the match using a source that's impossible to replicate outside the confines of the game is wrong, and we need to stop defending this shit and pretending it's okay. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you play in SWF, because I constantly do. All you need to realize is how broken it is and not have a massive ego over it. These
Just so you know, Buffalo doesn't have an ego. Buffalo is good at the game. And to be a good SWF, you need to know what you're doing. If you put 4 people together that don't know what they're doing, it will be equivalent having 4 players at 1,000 hours on solo queue. And that's the truth.
Slaves who only play in SWF and pre-drop constantly downplay the advantage they're given, and still play the victim card if the killer tunnels or something, despite tunneling being basically the only way to beat teams like this, especially on lower tier killers. They'll say
on lower tier killers, perhaps. But, in general, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You want to know how you beat them? You're better than them. The way you beat a SWF without tunneling is that you're better than them. If you don't beat them without tunneling, camping, or slugging, then you're not better than them. Simple as that. It's a very simple equation. But again, I will admit, whenever you are playing against people that are playing optimally, I don't blame you for playing optimally. I'll never blame you for playing optimally and playing in a way that is efficient. If the survivors play efficiently, you should also be playing efficient. I don't see a problem with that.
Shit, like, you don't understand how hard it is to hold W versus Ghostface on Area of Crows, man. These toxic killers have it so easy. They're very disingenuous and they like to lie, because they only experience one side of the game and they want a power fantasy by playing the real power role of the game. These Swift zombies don't receive enough hate, in my opinion. You can play something brain dead and broken, and there's nothing truly wrong with that. Let people play however they want to, right? The problem arises for me when you play something as game-breaking as a full-man meta Swift, hard calming, and have a massive ego over it. These Swifts are always the one either saying it's easy in the endgame chat.
I wouldn't say people are having an ego over it, because that's a weird thing to have an ego over. Like, I wouldn't say people have an ego over playing Swift at all. I at least have not experienced it. But again, I play on EU. So, and I heard that NA servers are a fucking shit show. So what do I know?
If you lose despite them having every advantage possible, or crying by the way you played or the kill you're playing if they lose every single time. They'll only ever say GG when they win, and they'll cry when they lose because they're not used to losing. These people.
Okay, now you're being disingenuous. I have played against way more Swifts that have said GG well played, rather than calling me out in the endgame chat and telling me that I suck. This is just disingenuous as fuck. Yeah, this is just straight up him being.
People win like 5 games in a row, and then when they finally get shit on by an actually good killer who's able to put up with all their brain dead bullshit, they throw a tantrum. This is a terrible way to play the game. One of my favorite examples is this night game I played a while back that I've already used as an example on this channel before, where this 4-man Swift quad rage quits at the beginning because they canceled their brain dead Azeroth's key offering that they run every single game. And then they talked in the endgame chat like they weren't a Swift despite me checking their profile and seeing they were all friends. This is really, really cringe and embarrassing. It's such a circle jerk. They're pretending.
That's one instance out of how many? Like, you can't just take one example and then attribute that example to everyone. Like, that's not how it works. Just because one person, or just because one group did this, that doesn't mean that all Swifts are like that.
Like they're not in a group. Survivors sometimes won't admit to being in a Swift even when they clearly are, because they know how broken it is, and they feel it takes away from their own solo mechanical skill, which it does, by the way. Like these guys who I owned as Pinhead recently, and they denied being.
I think solo mechanical skill, like, I don't like, if you're good in a Swift, you're good in a Swift. If you're good solo queue, you're good solo queue. Like, I really could not care less about that.
Being in a Swift, despite all being on each other's friends lists. Stuff like this happens all the time. It's such a tragedy on this game that these high ego comptards can just autopilot the entire game because of how much information they have for free. Having 1,000 eyes on every corner of the map is the reason why nobody plays killers like Hag, and we just get blights every other match, by the way. Even not being on comms throughout the match and just being in a pre-made group is problematic enough. Just knowing your teammate has Unbreakable so you don't have to pick them up, or knowing your teammate has Deliverance so you won't have to go for the save, makes these already powerful perks completely game-breaking because they were.
There is this really funny thing. There's this really funny thing, Silver, that you can have, that is in the game, very much in the game, which is called the pre-game chat for Survivor, where they can chat to each other before the game starts, and in that, they can say to the other players, their team, I have this perk. I have Unbreakable. If I go down, don't pick me up. Or, I have Deliverance. When I get on the hook, don't save me. And yeah, people do that. Because when I play solo queue, I have people doing that all fucking time. All the time. And it is a very good tool, very good information, and you don't have to be in a SWF to do it. So this complaint, I can't agree with. Just like many other things that you've put out. I can't agree with it. I can't agree with that.
Never intended to be balanced around survivors having that information. Running over to your teammate with Unbreakable for 20 seconds only for them to get up, forcing you to run back to the gen you were on for 20 seconds is the equivalent of a commodious toolbox with its best add-ons. It actually just allows you to be so much more efficient because those 40 seconds that you just wasted are now 40 seconds of you sitting on a gen. This is a game-winning thing, by the way, and that's just one random example. Think about how many times you've won a match as killer from interrupting a gen with 95% progress. This has massive implications on the match, and being in a SWF with all the broken info allows you to act accordingly always. Try it for yourself. Think of different examples of the math behind SWF's efficiency and how game-breaking it truly is. In a game where the math is already rigged against you as killer, having the survivors this efficient just breaks it. The closest example
I will say, he is right about the thing with the game being against you as killer. Because whenever you do load in, you're in a losing position. And I think this is pretty well known, that whenever you're loading in as killer, you're in a losing position. Right? I hope that everybody can agree. But to outright say that it breaks the game further by a whole lot, because that's kind of what he's implying, I wouldn't say that. I would not say that. I think it kind of... It makes the game harder for you, absolutely. But if it makes the game that much harder for you, then you yourself are just not that great of a player. Right? I think we can all agree on that. If it makes it that much harder for you that they're talking to each other, then you're not that great of a player. Because sure, they have a lot of communication, a bunch of communication, but that communication doesn't mean shit if you're good in chase. If you are good in chase and you get your downs very quickly, then them having the information doesn't matter. Because then you just go injured down hook, injured down hook, injured down hook, and then you don't give them a chance to relay any information. It is about you being efficient, but them being more efficient. If you aren't efficient against SWF, you will lose. If you're efficient against a SWF, you will win. As simple as that. And that does not include tunneling. I'm not including tunneling in this. I'm including the fact that you are good in chase. And if you're good in chase, you won't have a problem against SWFs.
I can think of is stream sniping, which is obviously not okay, but it's a funny double standard. Seeing the killer's build on Twitch isn't allowed, but just telling your friends their build on Discord is perfectly fine. Like,
okay, no, you don't have to. Oh my god. You do realize that the other 4 players actually have a brain for themselves, right? And you don't exactly have to be a genius to figure out what perks the killer has. You don't actually have to be an absolute scientist to figure that out. And you don't need to be 4 people talking together to figure that out. You can literally just play the game out and figure it out. This is a bad take.
think about that for a second. And stream sniping as killer is nowhere near as consistent as playing in SWF, because you just have to hope you run into a Twitch slave and they don't have a delay on. Having that info as killer is the closest thing you can get to being in a SWF, and it's still barely comparable and completely reliant on factors outside of your control. Knowing what a killer has also lets you know
what?
barely comparable and completely reliant on factors outside of your control. Knowing what a killer has also lets you know what they don't have.
So, you openly and blatantly stream snipes on a stream. For what? Where's that edited in? I don't know. Is that edited in? If that is edited in, fine. But if that is actually on a stream, I'm sorry to say, you just got yourself banned.
Completely relying on factors outside of your control. Knowing what a killer has also lets you know what they don't have. If your Swift butt buddies have called out throughout the match that the killer has 3 perks and they just called out Bamboozle, then you don't have to worry about No Ed or No Way Out or None Are Free or Blood Warden or Remember Me or any of this shit. That has a huge change on the match, by the way. In a Swift, just knowing that you're going to Eyrie of Crows and your teammate will set up an uncounterable God boon on the top floor so the killer can never down you and you move faster is insanely game breaking, but no one cares to talk about it. Statistically, Swifts have
Just snuff the boon. What's the problem? Just snuff the fucking boon. I don't get it. Like, just... They place the boon. You know where the boon is. Then snuff the boon. What's the problem? What?
Have a fairly average escape rate, and the insufferable goblins of DBD Twitter made sure to let you know this. The reason for this is a lot of people playing in pre-made groups are just having fun with their friends and not abusing it like the players I've been talking about in this video. A lot of them are newer players messing around with their friends, or just people trying to get their newer friends into the game, so obviously...
So what's your complaint? If it isn't the majority of people, then why does it matter? Like, why does it matter so much? Like, I don't understand. Like, I would understand if it was, like, a very, like, reoccurring thing, but it's not. So why are we pretending that it's a problem?
Obviously, their escape rates are going to be very high, especially when Swifts are the most likely to play altruistic and ruin the game. It's the same thing with Nurse's kill rate being really low because she's mechanically weird. Does that mean that Nurse is fair and balanced? Just because something isn't being abused by you does not make it okay. Just because someone is really bad at Blight, that does not mean Blight isn't an acceptable state.
I never play Swift. But when I do play Swift... Well, actually, no, wait, I always play Swift. Never mind. Yeah. Because I actually only play Survivor whenever I actually... So I guess I always play Swift. But at the same time... Like, I don't feel a difference from solo queue to Swift. I don't feel a fucking... At all. Like, I don't really see his point. Like, sure, there's less communication. Sure. I'd agree on that. But that's about it.
Just because you're drunk driving and haven't gotten into an accident doesn't mean the process of drunk driving is okay. It increases the likelihood of this bad thing happening.
Why are we comparing playing Swift and not playing Swift to drunk driving? Why? Like, these comparisons are so bad.
All in all, it's a pretty consistent example of cheating. Whether they want to just farm clips for fun despite having every possible advantage in the situation, or introduce a new friend to the game, it all comes down to you are not supposed to have this advantage and you are acting upon having this advantage. Okay, so if all of this is so problematic, how would I...
You only have the advantage if you know what you're doing. That's it. You only have the advantage if you and everybody else in the Swift knows what's gonna happen. It's not effective at all.
I change it? Because you obviously can't make Swift bannable. That's just stupid. There'd be way too many false positives. I could end up making an entire video on this, but this is my quickfire solution. Add voice chat, or at least a pinging system, and then nerf Survivor as a whole in some way.
You're fucking kidding me, right? So your solution to the problem is by introducing the problem to the game. Your solution to the problem, the thing that you think is a problem, is by introducing that problem into the game. I knew you were stupid, River, but holy shit, this takes the cake.
Allow me to explain. The devs have been very against adding a voice chat to the game because the game isn't built for survivors to have that much information, and it may destroy the immersion a bit. I hate to break this to you guys, but DBD hasn't really been a truly immersive horror game since like maybe 2017. Having a voice chat would fix a lot of issues with your game and bridge the gap between solo queue and SWF. Why do you think all your killer games are so 0 to 100 nowadays with no in between? You either completely shit stomp the entire lobby and 12 hook them at 4 gens remaining, or fight for your life regardless of the outcome. It's because for experienced killer players like myself, SWF is basically the only way I can lose nowadays if I bring a good build and play a good enough killer. This is not what DBD should be. It shouldn't be this mathematic. There shouldn't be such a disparity between these two things. 4 good survivors.
Just so you know, you can absolutely lose to solo queue. Because there are good solo queue players out there. And to say that you don't ever, most of the time, never ever lose to solo queue, I know for a fact that that's bullshit. And that goes for the good killers as well.
In solo queue are far worse than 4 boosted as fuck survivors in a SWF, and it shouldn't be this way. Remember, the solo queue HUD didn't even exist until late 2022, and they're apparently going to be letting you see your teammates' perks in the pregame lobby too, so the devs clearly aren't against the idea. This would make the game so much more dynamic. It wouldn't be, oh, I loaded in as Clown with an off-meta build, and it's a SWF, so I lose. There's literally nothing I can do. Or I loaded in as Blight with a full meta build, and it's solo queue, so I just guaranteed win unless I hard throw. The game is so binary nowadays with this stuff, especially.
You don't have the hard throw to lose. I'm blind. You don't have to. The reason, and I can give you a very good explanation as to why. Blind is such a common killer nowadays that people actually know how to play against him, including solo queue. And for that reason, you will also lose games going up against solo queue. And if you can't face that fact that you've lost to solo queue, then I don't know. It makes it sound like that you have an ego.
Because of maps too, but that's a whole different issue. I have not heard an argument as to why DBD shouldn't have voice chat at this point, and I know it's not that simple to add, but after playing similar games to DBD like VHS that had voice chat, I think it would truly work. And wait, wouldn't giving voice chat to every survivor basically make every lobby into a discount SWF? Yes, it would. So that's why I propose that given all this new information survivors have, several perks need to be reworked, and survivor as a whole should be nerfed somehow. How so exactly? Well, that's a video for another day, because it is.
I don't think this is a great idea. I don't think so. I don't think it's a great idea to nerf Survivor across the board just because that voice chat got in the game. I don't think so. I will agree on some perks having to be reworked, but nerfing Survivor overall, nah. One thing I will say is that hook stages need to go back to 60 seconds. There's no reason for hook stages to be 70 seconds. There's no reason. Nobody asked for this. This was never needed. So why is it there? That is one thing I will absolutely say. That should change, 100%. That should go back to 60 seconds.
It's such a complicated issue, but you can give me your ideas in the comments. I believe Survivor as a whole should be nerfed after these changes because it's not just like, hey guys, we buffed Wraith, it's the entire role. Killer as a role has much more nuance than Survivor, with all the selections, and some of these killers like Hag, Pinhead, Legion, or Twins are far weaker versus SWF, due to the nature of their powers. I swear, the more I think about it, the more I realize how much SWF actually breaks basically every aspect of the game, and nobody cares. Most people admit it's strong, but won't even admit it's the true power role of the game, or even to the level of cheating. The more I think about it though,
not to the level of cheating, dude. You can't argue the fact that talking to your friends over Discord is equivalent to cheating. If somebody is cheating, they're giving you zero chance to win. They're not giving you a chance to win. Whereas SWF, you have a chance to win. If you actively still have a chance to win, it's not cheating.
So it really is cheating. Once again, you are using a third-party software to gain a massive advantage that cannot be obtained within the confines of the game. That is by definition cheating.
And why would this be any different if you added this into the game? Why? It wouldn't make it any fucking different. Again, you're literally saying, let's kill off the problem by introducing the problem inside the game. basically admitting this is not cheating because you could put this in the game and have it work. And have it not be cheating. So you yourself is right now admitting it's not cheating. But you're too stupid to understand it. Holy shit, dude.
Actually is not mine initially, though. There's a semi-infamous Twitch streamer called Titan of the Mind, who makes this kind of his whole thing that Swift is cheating. When I first heard it, I thought he was joking. Like, how could Swift be cheating? That's insane. But when I heard him go through his points, and full disclosure, called him myself many times, his perspective started to make a lot more sense. I haven't really heard a good counterpoint to this. It's just...
By the way, Titan of the Mind is a player, a killer player that believes that he can't lose, and every single time that he loses, it's because that survivors are cheating. He can't possibly lose. That's why he saw that his win streak was above like 2,600. He has lost many games after that. Many games. But he believes that he can't lose because something within the game is cheating.
Usually the same bullshit like, what about pre-game trap, bro? Or it's not that bannable. It's not bannable, though, which are easily debunkable. People even bring up other games like Overwatch, like, oh, is calming in that game cheating because you get so much info? When that game is clearly based around comms and it's symmetrical. They have voice chat in the game. It's such a bad argument. Swift being the way it is in DBD for the past 9...
Not a bad argument. This is still a team game. You're still coordinating with a team on how to approach the problem that you're trying to solve together. Having it be symmetrical or asymmetrical doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all.
9 years has led to so much complacency, but if we're gonna change camping, tunneling, and slugging, maybe throw the killers a bit of a bone here too, and try to fix the real power roll and the most broken thing in the game, maybe it's time to stop these power tripping losers. But yeah, that's about all I have to say on this topic. I'd love to see how this one goes over. I'm sure I'll hear great arguments as usual. Like, I know it's a bit of an out there take, but just use your brain for a second. Think about it. Alright, yeah, it should go over well. It should go over well. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Alright, that's it.
Yeah, I did use my brain for the entire video, and I can also tell you that absolutely none of that made sense. Absolutely none of that. There was no coherent thought going through your mind throughout that entire thing, at all, whatsoever. Like, you can't say that. You can't possibly tell me that the way that you fix the problem that you're creating is by introducing said problem into the game. That's just stupid. Now you're just straight up being stupid, and no wonder that we don't take you seriously. My fucking god. Alright, well, if you enjoyed it, just hit like, subscribe. I'm fucking out of here, dude. I'm fucking out of here.